All right, we are on page 3 of our digital notebook. Page 3 and 4 are going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a lot of you thinking on these. So let's go ahead to the next page. And again, if that wall, okay, the wall's not in the way. So this is an interactive simulation. So it's pretending that you are the queen. Okay, so you're putting yourself in the spot of this queen right here, the head of Egypt. So the first question, what is a Candace? Let's go ahead and open this. You are the Candace, or Queen of Nubia. You rule over a land with close ties to Egypt. So you are the Queen of Nubia. Nubia is tied to Egypt through trade and through culture. Nubia shares elements of Egyptian culture, but has its own unique culture too. Like Egypt, Nubia lies along the Nile River. Nubia is powerful, but it has much less farmland than Egypt, far fewer people, and a smaller army. So first of all, it says start, but we're not ready, so let's do this. What is a Candace? I wonder if I can make this bigger. Let me try. All right, it looks like that's about as big as I can get it. If you want to look at this, this is not in your textbook. You'll have to open the e-text, press next 2 times, and you will get to this interactive simulation. But I think you can see it in here. So what is a Candace? It's that first, oh, I can highlight it right there. So go ahead and get that answer now. Next, so you are the Nubian queen. Egypt's ambassador demands 1,000 more pounds of gold a year. The pharaoh threatens to conquer Nubia unless you agree. What do you do? So let's open this. Let's click start because this is going to take us to the next page. All right, I made it a little bit bigger here. So Egypt's ambassador demands 1,000 more pounds of gold a year. The pharaoh threatens to conquer Nubia unless you agree. So you are the queen of Nubia. This is what I'm going to explain. Egypt is big. Nubia is a country, a city in Egypt. So Egypt is a country. Nubia is a city. So it'd be like Egypt, compare Egypt with Michigan. Saginaw is a city in Michigan. Nubia is a city in Egypt. Kind of the same. So Michigan, in Michigan, the head of Michigan is our governor. The head of Egypt is the pharaoh. The head of Saginaw is whoever the Saginaw mayor is. I'm not sure. So the head of Nubia is you. So it'd be like you in charge of Saginaw. But the governor of Michigan is telling you you have to pay 1,000 more pounds. So let's just say $1,000 more of gold a year. So what do you do? Should you give in to this demand for more, to pay him more, or reject it or negotiate? So if you give in to the pharaoh's demand, what will happen? If you reject, if you say, no, I'm not paying you that $1,000, what will happen? If you ask the pharaoh to negotiate, what will happen? So choose one of these 3 now. Okay, you know what you're going to do? So for those of you who chose, you give in to the pharaoh's demand, this is what's going to happen. You give in to the pharaoh's demand. After 2 years, your treasury, your money is all gone, it's empty. Your people are going hungry because they have to be forced to mine gold instead of growing crops. You can't feed them because your grain reserves are used up. You do not have enough gold left over to buy them food from Egypt. Starvation begins to kill your people. So giving in is not a good idea. So let's go back and try something else. Let's say we say, no, we're not doing it. We're not giving you any more money. We reject the pharaoh's demand. The pharaoh sends his army. It's a big army. Your army puts up a fight, but they are outnumbered by the Egyptians. Your army runs out of food rations while the Egyptian army is well fed. Your army is forced to surrender and you are executed. Not a good choice. So what about if we ask to negotiate? I can't give you $1,000, but maybe I can give you something. You ask the Pharaoh to negotiate. Your advisor travels to the Pharaoh's palace in Egypt. He explains that if you pay 1,000 more pounds of gold a year, your people will starve to death. With Nubia ruined, Egypt will lose access not only to Nubia's gold, but to other trade goods from Nubia, such as ivory and iron. So Egypt, Mr. Pharaoh man, you need my stuff. And if all my people are dead, you're not getting my gold, you're not getting my ivory, you're not going to get any access to the iron. So the Pharaoh says, makes sense. I'll reduce my demand and give you a more affordable 100 pounds of gold. You agree to this. So you have negotiated, and he is only getting 100 more from you instead of 1,000. Good job. Next, let's go back over here. So right here, you are the Nubian Candace. Egypt's ambassador demands 1,000 more pounds. What do you do? I hope, let's just go ahead, put it in here, that you negotiate to $100 instead of $1,000. So put that for number 2. Let's move on to page 4. We have 2 more simulations. So number 3 is going to be the next one. Let's go look at it. The Nile's last flood was so intense that it washed away the soil from many of the country's fields. Oh no, look at the wash away here. Should you make your people carry water to new fields, use your stored grain to pay miners, or simply feed the people? So you have 2 options. You order your people to carry water to the new fields in the desert, or you use part of your stored grain to pay people to mine iron and gold. Which one do you think you would choose? Think about it for a minute. All right, those of you who chose, you tell your people to carry water to the fields. You order your people to carry water to new fields in the desert. Your people grow exhausted and hungry from the hard work of carrying water all day and every day. They have little energy left to tend crops. Many are injured from the hard work and unable to work anymore. Food storages and starvation kill thousands. Not a good option. So let's look and see what the other option was. You use part of your stored grain to pay people to mine iron and gold. Your country's gold and iron production soars. Traders bring the added gold and iron to Egypt. Your traders return with huge grain supplies. You are able to increase your grain storage. So here's what you do. Your grain is ruined. That's okay. Let's get more iron. Let's get a surplus of that gold and iron. Go trade it with Egypt. Egypt has grain. So if we have a surplus of the gold and iron, we'll take that surplus to Egypt, bring back grain, and it's a win-win. Egypt is getting what they want. We're getting the grain since all of our crops were ruined due to the flood, but we still have grain because we traded for it with Egypt. So good thought. So let's go ahead and look right here. Right here. You are the Nubian kings. The Nile's last flood was so intense that it washed away the soil from many of the country's fields. What do you do? So I'm going to back up one so that we can get it back up on the screen. All right, here it is. So right here, what do you do? Remember, we chose this is going to be the better idea. Use part of your stored grain to pay people to mine iron and gold. Then they mine a lot. We get a surplus. You use that surplus, that extra gold and iron, and trade it with Egypt to get the grain we need, our grain that was ruined. So this is what you should put for number 3. Number 4, you are the Nubian Cadence. We already know that. Using stored grain to pay miners worked out well. Now you wonder how you can maintain your good fortune. What should you do? Well, let's find out. So we did this right here. So we've got a couple things. Let's go ahead and make this large. Using stored grain to pay miners worked out well. Now you wonder how you can maintain your good fortune. Should you pay even more men to mine and trade, send miners back to farming, or just watch your store grain increase. So you've got three options. You can use your stored grain to pay even more men to mine more gold and more iron, and then go trade for more grain if we need it. You could order mine workers to return to their village to grow grain, so make them go grow their own grain, although it was flooded. Or you leave things as they are so that your stored grain will increase. So let's check it out. Let's start with this one. You leave things as you are so that your stored grain will increase. You have to build even more granaries to store the grain that is building up. One day a fire breaks out in the granaries. Your grain reserves are destroyed in one day. You have lost your wealth, and you will not be able to pay miners to produce gold to sell Egypt. So let's not do that one. What about if we tell them to go to their own village and grow their own grain? You order mine workers to return to their villages to grow grain. Your people harvest just enough grain to eat, with nothing left over to pay their taxes. You run out of stored grain to pay gold miners to provide the gold tribute to Egypt. You cannot pay for soldiers to stop an Egyptian invasion, and Egyptian troops carry you off to be executed. Not a good one. So let's look at this one right here. I'm thinking it might be this choice. You use your stored grain to pay even more men to mine gold and iron. Trade expands with Egypt. Your traders can now buy as much grain from Egypt as your people need. In fact, the large amounts of iron and gold that you can sell to Egypt now allow you to buy precious cedar wood, and other luxuries. You can live in greater luxury, and you don't need to worry about the Nile floods or your stored grain anymore. You've completed this activity. I want to go back, though, so that we can see it. So you use your stored grain to pay even more men to mine gold and iron. Gives you a bigger surplus, and you can just trade with Egypt, and now you get more fun stuff, luxurious stuff when you trade. So this is what should be for number 4. Get that now.